Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the 4 Pillars of Health and Wellbeing in association with Core NI and the Derry City and Strabane District Council. My name is Gareth Fox, and I am a mental and emotional wellbeing therapist. So this week we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, something that I think is extremely important during this current pandemic, but also going on into the future. Working as a therapist, I see a lot of clients who come in with emotional issues. And one of the main things I hear from clients is, I don't know why I'm feeling how I do. And so that's something that we're going to approach today. We're going to look at why we feel like what we feel. Where do these emotions come from, and how can we change them? How can we improve them? And how can we do it sustainably and healthily? So the million-dollar question is, why do we feel like what we feel, and where do our feelings come from? Well, most people think that their feelings come from outside of them. They come from their environment, and it's things that happen to them that make them feel how they feel. So here's how that looks. Such and such said something to me, and that made me feel bad. Now, in reality, such and such said something to me, and it's how I choose to think about what they said that makes me feel bad. So what that means is that it's your thoughts that create your feelings. Yes, your environment has a part to play in it, but it's how you choose to think about that environment that creates the feelings that you have inside you. Now, what do I mean when I say your thoughts? Well, your thoughts are the words that you say to yourself and the images that you create in your head. That's what your thoughts are. And those are the things that are fundamentally causing your feelings. If you think about positive things, you create positive feelings. If you think about negative things, you create negative feelings. Now, I know that sounds maybe for some people a little bit wishy-washy, but that is the truth. Now, there's a little experiment that we can do right now in order to show you how that works. If you want to follow along with me, then feel free. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to close your eyes first and foremost. If you're in an environment where you can do it easily, close your eyes. And I want you to take your hand and I want you to place it just below your chin. And I want you to imagine that in your hand you have half a lemon. You have a lemon sliced in half. And I want you to pretend and imagine that you're squeezing that lemon just underneath your mouth. You're squeezing that lemon, and on the surface you can really see the juices start to assemble. And you can really get that smell of that zingy, fruity, citrusy lemon smell. And I want you to really imagine that. I want you to get that right into your nose, that smell, and start to feel the taste of that lemon on your tongue. And now what I want you to do is, I want you to imagine that you're shoving that lemon in your mouth. Shove the lemon in your mouth, and I want you to chew and bite down on it. And when you shove that lemon in your mouth and you chew and you bite down, and you really clamp through the flesh, you get the juices from that lemon squirting out into all areas of your mouth, and you really get that kind of tingling feeling that you get here when you eat a lemon. And what I want you to do now is I want you to stop, and I want you to see what has happened inside your mouth. What has happened inside your mouth is that you have produced saliva, more saliva than what you need right now. Now, there is no lemon, but the images that you created in your head and the words that you said to yourself made your brain think that there was a lemon. And so it did what it normally does when you're eating a lemon. It produced saliva in order to break that down. So what does that show us first and foremost? Well, it shows us that our thoughts make chemical reactions happen in our body. Our thoughts are things, they change us physiologically. So with regard to our feelings, when we have a sad thought or a stressed thought, that produces the physiological chemicals in our body that create those stress or sad reactions. Our thoughts produce the chemicals that make us feel things. So if all our thoughts create feelings, then consequently all our feelings, everything that we feel, from the positive feelings to the negative feelings and everything in between, they are created by our thoughts, by nothing else but by what we think. So it's very important for us to understand what we think, because that's what's creating what we feel. Now, when I have people who come into my clinic, or at the moment we do it all online, a lot of people say, look, I'm feeling frightened, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling worried. I'm not quite sure where these things are coming from. And as we've just seen, they're coming from the thoughts of that client. Now, yes, we can live in an environment that is stressful, especially now with regards to the pandemic and lockdown, and with money stresses and health and well-being stresses, but they aren't created by things that are out of our control. That's really important to understand. How we feel is not out of our control. Now, stress, money stress, for example, yes, the income that we have currently is in a way out of our control, especially through what's happening with the pandemic. But how we choose to think about that is within our control. If we choose to think about that in a way that says, this is never going to get better, these money issues are extremely stressful, I'm never going to be able to pay for this and for that, and so many things are going to suffer. Those thoughts that we're having, those little words that we're saying in our mind, those images that we're creating of worst case scenario, they are producing stress chemicals. In the same way, imagining eating a lemon produces saliva, imagining the worst case scenario with regard to our finances produces stress chemicals, and therefore puts the body under stress. But that all comes from what we think. Now, it takes practice to be able to put some control into what we think. It takes practice to be able to be in a stressful environment, but see the positive in that environment. But that is what's going to control what we feel. Now, there's a really important way to look at this, because what people tend to do on a regular basis is they tend to look at the result, and if they're unhappy with the result, they tend to change the action that created that result. What do I mean by that? Let's say, for example, we're stressed about how we look. Now, I have a lot of clients who come in with regards weight loss, and they're stressed with regards how they look. So what they do is, when they're unhappy with how they look, they try to change the action that led to that look. And a lot of the time that can be to do with overeating. So what they try to do is they try to change how they eat, and they go on diets and healthy eating regimes like that. And they also try to get more physical fitness. They go to the gym, they run, but that's having a result and changing the action which they believed led to the result. But the reason why a lot of these diets tend to fail is because it's not the action that caused the negative result. The action's just a part of the process. Everything we do is driven by how we feel. All our action and inaction is driven by how we feel. So let's say you're unhappy with how you look because you're eating a certain way. It's more than likely you're eating a certain way because you have a negative emotion that's attached to something, and you're eating that emotion. That's where emotional eating comes from. You're eating an emotion. A lot of the time, our emotions are held down here in our stomach. That's where we feel them. And so when there's something that we don't want to feel, we tend to want to push it down, and we do that physically through food. So our feelings are what's driving our actions, and our actions are what are fundamentally creating our results. But like we've just seen in the beginning, what causes our feelings are actually our thoughts. So if you're struggling at the minute with how you look, with your weight, it's not the action that's causing the result. It's the thought first and foremost, which is causing your feelings, which are driving your actions, which are creating your results. So the most important thing so far to understand is you control how you feel. Your feelings are created by your thoughts, and you control how you think. No one else controls how you think, you do. So you control how you feel. Now, that might sound like an awful lot of pressure in the beginning, You control how you feel, but actually it's one of the most empowering things that you can learn, is that no matter what situation you find yourself in, you have the tools in order to feel your way through it, to feel your way positively through it. So with regards to lockdown at the minute, if you're using words like lockdown, if you're looking at it in a negative way, well, that's going to create the negative emotions inside you. But if you choose to look at it in a different way, if you choose to use different vocabulary, then you will have a different outcome with regard to your emotions and how you feel. I have clients who came to me in the beginning and were using things like, I'm being kept in against my own will, it's like prison, and they were feeling highly stressed because those were the images that they were creating in their mind, and their mind was accepting that. Their mind was thinking, okay, we are being kept in, we're in prison. But then what we learned to do was we learned to choose the words that we wanted to use. And so instead of saying we're being kept in against our will, clients were starting to say things like, oh, I now have more time to invest in the things that I want to do. It was a simple shift in vocabulary in the beginning, which then changed how they felt, which changed their outlook towards their environment. It wasn't their environment that changed, it was the vocabulary that they used, which created the thoughts that they have. Because remember, our thoughts are created by the words that we say and the images that we create. And because they changed their thoughts created their feelings. So now they were having positive feelings, which were driving positive actions, which were creating positive results. But this isn't just for now. What I want you to understand is that the advice that I'm giving you today isn't just for how to cope with, deal with, or get ahead during lockdown. This is the advice that we should be using in all areas of our life. So for example, the results that we have with regards our social relationships, our love relationships, our family life, our career, our finances, the results that we have in those areas of our lives are created by the actions that we have, that we implement in those areas, which are driven by our feelings in those areas, which are created by our thoughts. So if you can understand today that how you think in your relationship, how you think about your marriage, about your partner, is what drives the results that you have, and you control how you think, then you can control the outcomes within that area of your life. But you have to be conscious about how you do that. And that's what we're going to talk about in our session on Friday. We're going to learn how to control our thoughts. Because like I said, our thoughts are the things that create our feelings. So everything that we feel is created by our thoughts. So we need to learn how to control our thoughts. Now, there's a very huge fact to add to all of this. And that is that on average, we have 60,000 thoughts per day. And I'm saying all our thoughts create our feelings. And if we have 60,000, then that's a lot to control. And 95% of those 60,000 thoughts, we don't know we're having. We're not conscious of having. They are our subconscious thoughts. Now, they're very basic things, like how to drive a car. So if anyone knows how to drive a car, when we first learned how to drive a car, everything was slow because we were using our front brain, our conscious mind. So in order to drive, in order to use our left hand to change the gear while pressing the accelerator with our left foot, while looking at the mirror here, while looking at the mirror there, while looking over our shoulder, all those things didn't come naturally to us, and they were all slow and quite, for me anyway, it was quite drudged, and I wasn't very good at it. But through practice and through repetition, I was able to take those thoughts, those conscious thoughts of doing this, that, and move them from my front mind, my conscious mind, to my back mind, my subconscious mind. So therefore, when I'm driving today, I no longer think about driving. I'm able to do so many other things at the same time. I'm able to talk to whoever's beside me. If there's someone beside me, I'm listening to something maybe on the radio. I might be singing. but I'm not thinking consciously about those actions. And then suddenly I arrive at my destination, which means that the subconscious thoughts that we have, we're not aware of. But our subconscious thoughts aren't just things like how to drive or the alphabet or the times tables, the things that we learn through repetition. There are other things that include our beliefs, how we think about ourselves. Now, imagine we have a negative belief about ourselves. That belief might be, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to be people's friends. I'm not intelligent enough to get that job. The work that I produce isn't good enough. People don't like me. I'm not funny. We have lots and lots of negative beliefs that live in our subconscious that we're not conscious of having, but we are having. We're having them quite regularly. Every time we go into an environment, our subconscious mind plays those limiting beliefs. You can't talk to that type of person because you're not smart enough. You can't ask for that promotion because you're not brave enough, you're not good enough. And like I said in the very beginning, all our thoughts create our feelings, but it's not just our conscious thoughts, like whatever's happening in our environment and we're looking at it and going, oh, that could be scary, that could be stressful. That's creating a stressful feeling. But also so are the subconscious ones. The subconscious thoughts are also creating our feelings. And if we have negative subconscious thoughts, that's creating negative subconscious feelings. So therefore, anxiety, that's where anxiety comes from. Anxiety comes from those thoughts that we're not consciously having that are creating those feelings. That stress that sits in our chest, that fear, that's coming from a thought that we're having, but we're not consciously aware of having. Now, this can sound quite complicated in the beginning, and I know that. But this is what we're going to talk about on Friday. We're going to talk about those subconscious thoughts that are going on in our background that are creating those feelings, they're having those chemical reactions the same way the lemon was having those chemical reactions and causing us to have saliva in our mouths. Negative subconscious thoughts are causing negative chemical reactions within our body, which is creating those feelings that is fundamentally driving those actions, that is creating those results. So that's what I want to talk about on Friday. I want to talk about emotional control, which is the methods that we can do in order to control what we're thinking. And when we can control what we're thinking, then we'll control what we're feeling. If we control what we're feeling, then we control the actions that we have, and that will control our results. So thank you very much for listening today. And like I said in my first video, if you have any feedback, if you have anything that you would like us to talk about on Friday, please don't hesitate to get in contact. You can contact me directly through my socials, through private message, through my emails, or you can contact Core and I with the same thing, or you can contact the Derry City and Strabane Council, okay? So we would like you to get in touch with us, to let us know the issues that maybe you'd like us to address, whatever you're going through at the minute, or if you'd like any advice for you or for someone else, and we can approach that and address that in Friday's session. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you there. Thank you.